I genuinely thought I had seen it all until I read about a woman who demanded a full refund on her ski trip because the snow was aggressively freezing and hurting her dog's paws. Welcome to the absolute bottom of the barrel of holiday entitlement, where logic goes to die and brain cells are optional. We have compiled 56 of the most unhinged and completely ridiculous complaints ever filed by people who definitely need a nap. From suing the sun for setting too early to firing Santa for not being psychic. If you have ever worked retail and survived, hit that subscribe button right now for moral support and buckle up, because we are about to lose our minds. 1. An entitled woman booked a 5-star winter getaway to a luxury ski lodge in Aspen, hoping for cute Instagram photos. She stormed into the concierge desk within 10 minutes of checking in and slammed her room key on the counter while screaming at the manager. She claimed the snow outside was aggressively freezing, and it was physically hurting her precious dog's delicate paws. The manager tried to explain that winter weather is naturally cold, but she refused to listen to science or logic. She insisted that a high-end resort should have heated the entire mountain to a comfortable room temperature for her comfort. She demanded a full refund plus emotional damages because the brochure showed people smiling in the snow without shivering. She actually threatened to sue nature itself for ruining her vacation vibe. 2. A furious mother caused a massive scene at the local shopping mall after waiting 2 hours in line for the holiday photo experience. When her young son finally sat on Santa's lap, the actor kindly asked the boy for his name. The mother immediately gasped in horror and began yelling that the real Santa would telepathically know her child was named Braxton, with a Y. She accused the confused mall employee of being a complete fraud who was ruining the magic of Christmas. She screamed that a professional Santa should have memorized the names of every child in the state before putting on the red suit. She demanded the manager fire the imposter immediately and find a psychic Santa who respects her family. 3. A frustrated woman walked into the return line at Target on December 20th, holding a box of expensive silver ornaments. She slammed the box onto the counter and told the teenage cashier that these decorations were a severe health hazard. She explained that she tried to watch her favorite reality TV show, but the ornaments reflected too much light into her eyes. She claimed the glitter was aggressively shiny, and the manufacturer should have known it would cause migraines. The cashier tried to explain that glitter is designed to sparkle, but the woman called him rude and incompetent. She demanded a full refund because nobody warned her that shiny objects would actually shine. She insisted that festive decorations should be dull, so they do not distract from her television time. 4. A confused shopper marched back into the grocery store clutching an opened carton of premium holiday eggnog. She flagged down the dairy manager and loudly announced that this beverage was completely undrinkable. She explained that she took one sip and was horrified to discover that the drink tasted overwhelmingly like milk and cream. The manager stared at her in silence and gently reminded her that eggnog is literally made of eggs and milk. She refused to accept this explanation and argued that festive drinks should taste like holiday magic and not like a cow. She insisted that the store was selling a defective batch because she expected it to taste like juice. She threw the carton in the trash and demanded a lactose-free option that still contained heavy cream. 5. An angry customer walked into a department store 3 days before Christmas and immediately covered her ears to block out the noise. She demanded to speak to the general manager because the festive atmosphere was assaulting her sensitive senses. She claimed that playing Mariah Carey on loop was a violation of her human rights and the decorations were visually aggressive. She screamed that the store was shoving the holiday down her throat, and she just wanted to buy socks in silence. The manager explained it was the peak holiday season, but she refused to calm down or listen to reason. She threatened to call the police because the jingle bells were causing her severe emotional distress. She insisted they turn off all the music and take down the garland while she shopped. 6. A neighborhood busybody called the Homeowner Association hotline to report a serious safety violation on Elm Street. She was furious about the local church's outdoor nativity display because there were simply too many people inside the stable. She argued that having 3 wise men plus shepherds and animals created a dangerous overcrowding situation for the baby. She insisted that it looked like a fire hazard and violated modern occupancy codes for wooden structures. She demanded the church evict the wise men to the sidewalk to make the scene more realistic and safe. She claimed she was just looking out for the welfare of the statues, but everyone knew she just wanted to ruin the display. She threatened to report the donkey for loitering if they did not fix the crowd. 7. A teenage influencer had a complete meltdown in the middle of the downtown light festival last night. She stopped a city worker who was maintaining the display and accused him of ruining her social media feed. She screamed that the LED lights were flickering at a frequency that made her iPhone photos look blurry and dark. She argued that the city should have consulted with Instagram models to ensure the lighting was compatible with older phone cameras. She demanded that he adjust the voltage immediately so she could get the perfect selfie for her followers. She threatened to leave a 1-star review for the entire city because the electricity was not cooperating with her aesthetic. She refused to leave until the mayor personally apologized for her bad lighting. 8. A confused wife sat on her living room floor surrounded by wrapping paper and looked visibly disappointed. She turned to her husband and started complaining that the expensive handbag she just opened was not a surprise at all. She admitted that she bought the bag herself last week and wrapped it because she did not trust his taste. However, she was furious that she knew exactly what was inside the box before she opened it. She blamed him for not stopping her from buying it or for not erasing her memory. She claimed he ruined Christmas morning by letting her purchase her own present. She demanded he go out right now and buy her something else that she did not know about. 9. A suburban mother visited a petting zoo that featured live reindeer for the holiday season. She wrinkled her nose in disgust and marched over to the animal handler to file a formal complaint. She was absolutely appalled that the large living creatures smelled like a barn instead of gingerbread cookies or cinnamon. She argued that holiday animals should be bathed in peppermint oil so they fit the festive theme better. She claimed her children were traumatized by the reality of nature and demanded a refund for the smell. She insisted that the zoo should have replaced the real reindeer with animatronics if they could not control the odor. She left a negative review stating the deer were unhygienic and ruined her holiday spirit. 10. A frantic woman called the customer service line for the toy store in a state of pure panic. She explained that she bought an elf-on-the-shelf doll to create magic for her kids, but it was malfunctioning. She claimed the doll was moving to different spots every morning and it was stressing her out. The representative explained that she was the one who was supposed to move it, but she refused to believe him. She thought the doll was possessed and moving on its own while she slept. She screamed that she did not sign up for a haunted house experience. She demanded to return the demon doll immediately before it took over her home. She threatened to burn the doll if the store did not help. 11. A stressed woman stood in the aisle of the craft store, crinkling rolls of paper near her ear. She shouted for an associate because she found the noise of the paper completely unacceptable for her sensitive ears. She explained that on Christmas morning the sound of ripping paper gives her a severe migraine and ruins her peace. She demanded the store sell silent wrapping paper made of soundproof foam or velvet. She argued that the manufacturer was negligent for creating paper that makes a crunching sound when you crush it. She refused to buy gift bags because they were not traditional enough for her aesthetic. She threatened to wrap her gifts in bed sheets if the manager did not find a quiet option immediately. 12. A young woman screamed in the meat section of the supermarket and dropped a frozen turkey on the floor. She demanded to speak to the butcher immediately because the bird she picked up still had legs and wings attached. She was horrified that the turkey actually looked like an animal and not just a round ball of meat. She argued that seeing the anatomy of the bird was traumatizing and she could not cook something that used to walk. She insisted the store should sell turkeys that look like large chicken nuggets so she does not have to think about nature. She demanded the butcher cut off the limbs and reshape it into a sphere before she would pay. 13. Aggressive shopper held up the checkout line while waving a pair of designer boots in the air. She pointed to a large sign that clearly said up to 50% off selected items. She argued that since she selected these boots, they should be half price regardless of the sticker. The cashier explained that the phrase "up to" means only certain items are marked down, but she refused to listen. She claimed the sign was a binding legal contract that allowed her to set her own prices on anything she touched. She screamed that this was false advertising and tried to grab the boots back from the counter. She threatened to report the store to the government for using tricky prepositions. 14. A frustrated customer returned a box of Hanukkah candles to a specialty shop with a look of pure disgust. She complained that after lighting the menorah, The candles dripped wax onto her expensive tablecloth. She argued that fire should consume the wax entirely without leaving any physical evidence behind. The shop owner explained that melting is the physical property of wax near heat, but she called him lazy. She insisted that he sold her defective candles that were too messy for her high standards. She demanded a refund and compensation for her dry cleaning bill because of the mess. She claimed that in modern times, science should have invented a dry fire that does not melt anything. 15. An elderly woman called the technical support line for a greeting card website and was absolutely furious. She explained that she paid $5 for an animated premium e-card to be sent to her grandson. She was angry because she checked her physical mailbox every day for a week, and nothing had arrived. The support agent tried to explain that the E stands for electronic, and it goes to email. She refused to accept this and argued that if she paid money, she deserves a physical object. She accused the internet of stealing her money and claimed the company was a scam. She demanded the agent print the animation out on paper and mail it to her house immediately. 16. A wealthy woman stopped right in front of the department store entrance and glared at the bell ringer. She approached the charity volunteer and told him that his coat was looking too shabby for this upscale mall. She complained that his worn-out gloves were ruining the luxury aesthetic of her shopping experience. She argued that people asking for money should dress in suits so they look more professional and trustworthy. She actually suggested he go buy a new wardrobe before standing there to collect donations for the poor. She demanded the mall security remove him because he was an eyesore to her vision. She claimed she would have donated if he looked like he did not need the money. 17. An influencer stormed into the Christmas tree farm office and threw a pine branch on the desk. She complained that the natural tree she bought yesterday was clashing with her sad beige living room aesthetic. She argued that the green needles were too vibrant and aggressive against her cream-colored walls. She insisted that nature should produce trees in neutral tones like taupe or oatmeal to fit modern home decor. She demanded a refund because the farmer did not offer a bleaching service to remove the color. She claimed the tree was ruining her holiday vibe and she would have to spray paint it white. She threatened to leave a bad review because the trees were biologically accurate. 18. A paranoid mother grabbed her crying toddler and marched away from the Santa photo booth in a rage. She filed a formal complaint with the mall management stating that Santa looked terrifyingly unnatural. She argued that his beard was too white and fluffy, which made him look like a ghost instead of a human. She claimed that no person actually lives long enough to have hair that white, so he must be a zombie. She insisted that the mall should hire a younger Santa with a gray beard, so he looks more realistic. She demanded they pay for her child's therapy because the pristine white hair was too scary. She refused to return until Santa dyed his beard a sensible pepper color. 19. A furious homeowner called the police non-emergency line to report a serious visual disturbance on her street. She explained that her neighbor had put up cool white LED lights while she used warm white lights. She argued that the clashing color temperatures were a hazard to drivers and gave the neighborhood a disjointed look. She insisted that the police force the neighbor to change their bulbs to match her specific Kelvin rating. She claimed it was a personal attack on her property value to have blue-toned lights next door. She demanded an officer come out and issue a citation for bad taste in illumination. She threatened to cut the power lines herself if the visual chaos was not resolved immediately. 20. An offended customer stood at the bakery counter pointing an accusatory finger at a tray of cookies. She was upset that the gingerbread men were anatomically smooth and lacked specific gender characteristics. She argued that a cookie named a man should have the appropriate biological features to be accurate. The baker stared at her in shock and explained it was just a simple pastry shape for children. She refused to listen and claimed the bakery was pushing a woke agenda by erasing the gender of the cookie. She demanded they bake a new batch with detailed anatomy or change the name to gingerbread person. She stormed out vowing to never eat a gender-neutral dessert again in her life. 21. A grumpy woman stood at the checkout counter and glared at the teenage cashier who was scanning her items. When the boy smiled and cheerfully said Merry Christmas, she immediately asked to speak to his manager. She reported him for displaying sarcastic amounts of joy that she felt was mocking her own bad mood. She argued that nobody is actually that happy working retail in December, so he must be faking it. She claimed his smile was aggressive, and his festive spirit was unprofessional and irritating. She demanded he be reprimanded for having a good attitude while she was miserable. She insisted that employees should be neutral and robotic instead of forcing their happiness on customers. 22. A divorced woman stormed into her local church office and pointed a shaking finger at the nativity statues. She demanded the priest remove the angel figure immediately because it bore a passing resemblance to her ex-husband's new wife. She argued that seeing that specific facial structure was interfering with her ability to pray and feel holy. She claimed the church was taking sides in her divorce by displaying a statue that looked like her rival. The priest tried to explain it was a generic stone carving, but she refused to listen. She insisted they chisel the face to look different or cover its head with a bag. She threatened to stop donating if the offending statue remained visible. 23. A confused driver marched into the department store and started yelling at the first employee she saw. She blamed the store for the fact that her Google Maps app had directed her to the loading dock. She argued that the store should have contacted the satellite companies to ensure her phone knew the front door location. She claimed it was a conspiracy to make her walk further and ruin her expensive heels in the gravel. The employee explained they do not control satellites, but she called him a liar. She demanded a gift card for the emotional distress of seeing the garbage dumpsters. She insisted they put a large sign on the roof for the satellites to read. 24. A frantic woman called the customer service line for a calendar company on December 20th in tears. She shouted that the calendar was defective because Christmas was arriving before she was emotionally ready for it. She blamed the manufacturer for making the months of October and November go by too fast. She argued that a quality calendar should have more days in December to give mothers time to shop. She claimed it was unfair that the date was fixed and demanded they issue a recall. She insisted they send her a new calendar with an extra week inserted before the 25th. She threatened to sue Time itself for moving at a standard pace without her permission. 25. A fearful shopper waited by the automatic doors and refused to leave the store at 5 p.m. She screamed for the store manager and blamed him for the fact that the sun had already set. She argued that it was unsafe for her to walk to her car in the dark and he should have prevented it. She claimed that as a manager, he should have better control over the lighting conditions of the parking lot and the sky. She demanded he personally escort her or install a giant dome to keep it daytime longer. She insisted that early sunsets were a customer service failure that ruined her shopping experience. She threatened to sleep in the lobby until the sun came back up. 26. A furious mother dragged her crying child away from the photo area and started screaming at the event coordinator. She argued that the mall elf was a 6-foot-tall teenager and that ruined the magic for her son. She claimed that historically, elves are under 4 feet tall and hiring a tall person was lazy casting. She accused the teenager of growing on purpose just to mock the holiday tradition. She demanded the mall fire him and hire a shorter person immediately to maintain realism. She insisted that her child now believed elves were giants and would have nightmares forever. She refused to leave until the tall boy was replaced or forced to walk on his knees. 27. A disappointed woman walked into the garden center on December 26th, dragging a brown and dry wreath. She slammed it on the counter and demanded a full refund because the plant had died. The clerk explained that cut greenery eventually dries out, but she refused to accept this biology. She argued that she paid good money for a decoration and expected it to stay green forever like plastic. She claimed the store sold her a defective plant that did not have the will to live. She insisted that a high-quality wreath should be immortal and immune to dehydration. She threatened to dump the dead needles on the floor if she did not get her cash back. 28. A woman with a bandaged tongue walked into a coffee shop and slapped a lawsuit on the counter. She screamed that her hot cocoa was served at a temperature that was actually hot. She admitted she ignored the cardboard sleeve that said "Caution Hot," but argued that was not enough warning. She claimed the barista should have blown on the drink for her until it was lukewarm. She insisted that selling boiling liquids is a trap designed to hurt paying customers. She demanded the shop pay her medical bills and install ice cubes in every hot drink. She threatened to shut them down for serving beverages that were true to their name. 29. A confused lady stood at the register trying to pay for her groceries with an unloaded gift card. She argued that she bought the plastic card off the rack, so it should work like a credit card. The cashier explained she had to load money onto it first, but she called it a scam. She claimed that since she paid $2 for the card itself, it should have infinite value. She insisted that the magnetic stripe contained free money provided by the store for loyal customers. She screamed that they were stealing her plastic and refused to use her own cash. She threatened to call the police because the plastic rectangle was not magical. 30. A concerned neighbor called 911 to report suspicious activity at the church's live nativity scene down the street. She told the operator that 3 men in robes were just standing there, loitering and looking dangerous. She argued that nobody stands still for that long unless they are planning a crime. The operator explained they were actors playing the wise men, but she refused to listen. She claimed they were casing the neighborhood and using the donkey as a distraction. She demanded the police come and check their pockets for gold, frankincense, and weapons. She insisted that if they were really wise, they would move along and stop staring at the baby. 31. A teenage girl had a meltdown in the middle of a snowy forest during a family hayride. She screamed at the tractor driver to stop the vehicle immediately because her phone had lost signal. She argued that the farm should have installed high-speed Wi-Fi routers on the trees for her live stream. She claimed it was a violation of her rights to be offline while wearing a cute winter outfit. She demanded the driver turn the hayride around and drive back to civilization so she could post her story. She insisted that nature was boring without internet, and the trees were blocking her connection on purpose. She threatened to sue the forest for being a dead zone that ruined her influencer career. 32. A dramatic woman stood up at the family Christmas dinner and tapped her glass for attention. She proceeded to call out her cousins and aunts by name for not liking her Facebook post. She was furious that her carefully staged photo of the tree only got 12 likes in 4 hours. She argued that family support should be mandatory and visible on social media algorithms. She claimed their lack of engagement was a public insult that humiliated her in front of her high school friends. She demanded everyone take out their phones right now and heart the picture before dessert. She threatened to block Grandma if she did not leave a complimentary comment immediately. 33. A city woman rented a rustic log cabin for the holiday and called the owner in a rage. She complained that the authentic wood-burning fireplace was creating smoke when she lit it. She argued that a modern fire should be clean and odorless like a scented candle. She claimed the smoke was making her clothes smell like a campfire, and that was unacceptable for her brand. She insisted the owner should have installed a smoke-free wood option for sensitive guests. She demanded a refund because she wanted the aesthetic of fire without the reality of combustion. She threatened to leave a 1-star review because the rustic cabin was too rustic. 34. A corporate executive sent a formal email to the mall management regarding the Santa display. She was outraged that when she hugged Santa, he smelled faintly of coffee and donuts. She argued that for the price of the photo package, he should smell exclusively of peppermint or cocoa. She claimed the smell of caffeine broke the immersion and made him seem like a tired employee. She insisted that the mall force the actor to bathe in vanilla extract before his shift. She demanded a reshoot with a scratch-and-sniff Santa who met her olfactory standards. She threatened to bring her own air freshener and spray him down next time. 35. A paranoid neighbor banged on the front door of the house across the street at 8 a.m. She demanded they take down the large inflatable snowman on their lawn immediately. She argued that the painted eyes of the decoration were following her every time she walked to her mailbox. She claimed the snowman looked judgmental and was creating a hostile living environment. She insisted that the plastic figure was spying on her and reporting her activities to the government. She demanded they deflate it or at least put a blindfold over its eyes. She threatened to pop it with a needle if it continued to stare at her house. 36. A frustrated mother marched back into the candy shop with sticky red residue on her fingers. She slammed a box of peppermint sticks on the counter and demanded her money back. She complained that the candy canes were defective because they became sticky when her kids touched them. She argued that sugar should not melt in warm hands and create a mess in her car. She claimed the shop was selling low-quality candy that required wet wipes to eat. She insisted that science should have invented a dry sugar that repels moisture and saliva. She threatened to invoice the shop for her car, detailing bill because of the sticky fingerprints. 37. A furious father stood in the toy aisle on Christmas Eve, shaking a remote control car box. He screamed at the clerk that the box said batteries not included, and that was a personal insult. He argued that for $50 the store should just give him the batteries out of goodwill. He claimed it was a scam to force him to walk to a different aisle to buy power. He insisted that the store open a pack of batteries and tape them to the box for free. He demanded to speak to the CEO of the toy company for ruining his morning. He threatened to steal the batteries from a display unit if they did not provide them. 38. A visitor at the midnight mass service interrupted the choir director halfway through a hymn. She complained that the songs were too religious and boring for a modern audience. She argued that the church should mix in some top 40 radio hits to keep the energy up. She claimed that nobody wants to hear Silent Night when they could be listening to pop music. She insisted that Jesus would prefer a remix with a heavy bass drop. She demanded they change the setlist immediately, or she would leave a bad review on Yelp. She threatened to start singing her own pop songs over the choir if they did not switch. 39. A cold woman returned a portable electric space heater to the hardware store in a huff. She complained that even though it produced heat, it did not make a crackling sound like a real fire. She argued that the silence was unsettling and did not provide the cozy atmosphere she paid for. She claimed the box was misleading because it showed a picture of orange flames. She insisted the heater should have a built-in speaker that plays sound effects of burning logs. She demanded a refund because she could not feel warm without the auditory confirmation of fire. She threatened to burn actual wood on her carpet if they did not fix it. 40. A greedy shopper looked at the free sample of lotion she received with her purchase and scoffed. She called the manager over to complain that the free gift was just a travel-size bottle. She argued that if the store valued her as a customer, they would have given her the full liter size. She claimed it was insulting to offer her a tiny portion like she was a peasant. She insisted that free should mean whatever she wants to take from the shelf. She demanded they upgrade her sample to a gift basket worth hundreds of dollars. She threatened to return her entire purchase because the free item was not expensive enough. 41. A shocked woman stood in the doorway of the department store pointing a trembling finger at the ceiling. She called for the store manager and accused the establishment of actively harassing her customers. She argued that hanging a mistletoe plant above the entrance was a visual encouragement of non-consensual kissing. She claimed the plant was aggressive and made her feel unsafe while she was trying to buy candles. She insisted that the greenery was a predatory decoration that implied she owed strangers a kiss. She demanded they take the plant down and replace it with a cactus or something less affectionate. She threatened to file a restraining order against the vegetation if it was not removed immediately. 42. An impatient mother tapped her expensive watch while standing in the holiday line for photos. She marched up to the front and demanded a fast pass ticket for her son. She argued that her child is intellectually gifted and should not have to wait behind regular average children. She claimed that his time was more valuable than the other families, and waiting was an insult to his future. She insisted that the mall should operate like a theme park, where rich people can pay to skip the poor people. She demanded the elf escort them to the front immediately because her son had a tight schedule. She threatened to buy the mall and fire Santa if they did not move. 43. A spiritual woman walked into a home goods store and immediately shielded her eyes with her hands. She screamed at the shelf stalker to remove the large wooden nutcracker display from the aisle. She argued that the exposed wooden teeth were bared in a threatening manner that disturbed her aura. She claimed the doll was looking at her with aggressive intent, and it was projecting negative energy. She insisted that holiday decorations should be soft and smiling, not armed with crushing jaws. She demanded they burn the wooden soldier to cleanse the store of its bad vibes. She refused to uncover her eyes until the terrifying doll was locked in the back room. 44. A furious host returned a half-eaten ham to the Yiwan butcher shop 2 days after her party. She slammed the greasy bag on the counter and complained that the meat was aggressively salty. The butcher explained that it was a cured country ham, and salt is the primary ingredient. She refused to listen to culinary science and argued that it tasted like the ocean. She claimed he ruined her dinner because her guests had to drink water after eating. She insisted that he should have removed the salt from the curing process before selling it. She demanded a refund and a personal apology letter to her thirsty guests. 45. A chaotic shopper started yelling at the cashier for scanning her items with too much speed. She complained that the line moved so fast she did not have time to look at the candy bars. She argued that the efficiency was actually rude because it deprived her of the impulse buy experience. She claimed the cashier was rushing her out of the store to prevent her from spending more money. She insisted that he slow down and scan one item per minute so she could browse the gum. She demanded he void the transaction and start over at a snail's pace. She threatened to report him for being too good at his job. 46. A tired woman who lived next door to the historic cathedral called the city council in a rage. She complained that the church bells were ringing too loudly on Christmas morning. She admitted she had lived there for 10 years but argued that this year they interrupted her nap. She claimed that religious celebrations should be silent so neighbors can sleep in until noon. She insisted that the church replace the bronze bells with digital notifications sent to phones. She demanded the city impose a noise ordinance on the holiday tradition immediately. She threatened to climb the tower and hold the clappers still if they rang one more time. 47. An entitled resident wrote a stern letter to the local town council regarding the calendar dates. She demanded that the government officially move Christmas to be held on a Saturday every year. She argued that having the holiday fall on a Tuesday or Wednesday was inconvenient for her work schedule. She claimed that the government has the power to change the calendar to suit the needs of busy mothers. She insisted that holding it on a weekday was poor planning by the founding fathers. She demanded they pass a law to reschedule Jesus' birthday to the weekend for better traffic control. She threatened to boycott December 25th if it was not a convenient day. 48. A worried mother threatened to sue the city parks department after her son fell at the ice rink. She argued that the ice was negligently slippery and lacked the proper safety texture. She claimed that the city should have treated the surface with a non-slip grit to prevent falling. The manager explained that ice is frozen water and is slippery by nature, but she called him crazy. She insisted that a safe rink should have traction so children can run without sliding. She demanded they melt the ice and replace it with white carpet for safety. She screamed that friction was a basic human right even in winter sports. 49. A jealous woman pulled the event coordinator aside and whispered loudly while pointing at the North Pole set. She complained that the actress hired to play Mrs. Claus was far too young and attractive. She argued that it looked like Santa was having a midlife crisis with a trophy wife. She claimed that seeing a young woman in the role set a bad example for traditional family values. She insisted that Mrs. Claus should look exhausted and ancient to be historically accurate. She demanded they put wrinkles on the actress with makeup or fire her immediately. She refused to let her children take a photo with the scandalous couple. 50. A perfectionist stormed up to a minimum wage employee who was hanging garland on the store shelves. She began screaming that the tinsel on the left side was 3 millimeters lower than the right. She argued that the lack of symmetry was triggering her OCD and ruining the shopping aesthetic. She claimed the employee was lazy and incompetent for not using a laser level to hang cheap decor. She insisted that he take it all down and remeasure the entire store while she watched. She demanded the manager fire him for assaulting her eyes with crooked lines. She threatened to fix it herself and send the store a bill for her interior design services. 51. A fitness-obsessed woman stormed into the local bakery and pointed aggressively at the tray of frosted sugar cookies. She demanded to speak to the head baker because she could not find a keto, paleo, gluten-free, and sugar-free option. She argued that in 2025, a bakery should cater to every restrictive diet while still tasting exactly like pure sugar. The baker explained that a cookie without flour or sugar is basically just air, but she called him lazy. She screamed that he was trying to poison her children with carbohydrates and insulin spikes. She insisted he go to the back and invent a magic cookie that burns fat while you eat it. She threatened to report him to the health department for serving calories in a dessert shop. 52. A fashion-conscious shopper halted the entire checkout line by refusing to touch the store's complimentary shopping bag. She looked at the bright, festive red plastic, and then looked at her own deep burgundy trench coat in disgust. She argued that the store's shade of red clashed horribly with her outfit, and she could not be seen holding it. She claimed it was a fashion violation to carry a warm tone bag while wearing a cool tone jacket. The cashier offered to double bag it, but she screamed that the color was the problem, not the durability. She demanded the store keep white or black bags in the back for people with taste. She forced her husband to carry the items loose in his arms to avoid the style clash. 53. A disappointed tourist on a romantic sleigh ride tapped the driver on the shoulder to file a complaint. She pointed up at the clear winter night sky and groaned that the view was completely lackluster. She argued that the stars were just sitting there as static dots instead of twinkling, like they do in cartoons. She claimed the brochure promised a magical starry night, and this static display was false advertising. The driver explained that atmospheric turbulence causes twinkling, and the air was just too still. She refused to listen to science and insisted he drive to a bumpier part of the forest to shake the view. She demanded a partial refund because the galaxy was not putting on a show for her amusement. 54. A furious homeowner returned a large bag of soggy cotton batting to the craft store on a rainy Tuesday. She slammed the wet mush on the counter and screamed that the fake snow was defective. She explained that she spread it on her lawn for the aesthetic, but when it rained, the snow did not melt away. The clerk stared at her blankly and reminded her that she bought polyester fiber, not frozen water. She argued that the package said realistic snow, so it should dissolve into the earth like the real thing. She claimed the store sold her permanent trash that ruined her landscaping. She demanded they come to her house and pick every piece of wet cotton out of her grass immediately. 55. A party planner stood in the wine aisle holding a bottle of expensive Merlot with a look of pure disdain. She called the stock boy over and complained that the wine bottle was not festive enough for her table. She argued that the label featured a classic vineyard instead of a snowman or a reindeer. She claimed that her guests would not be able to get drunk in the holiday spirit if the bottle looked boring. The employee explained that the wine inside was high quality, but she did not care about the taste. She insisted that he find some stickers and decorate the glass himself to make it acceptable. She threatened to buy cheap wine instead just because it had a penguin on the label. 56. A desperate mother cornered the manager of the toy store 2 days before Christmas with a wild look in her eyes. She demanded he hand over the robot dog toy that had been sold out globally for 3 months. The manager explained they had zero stock, but she accused him of hoarding them. She argued that every store has a secret back room where they keep the good stuff for people who yell. She claimed he was ruining her son's childhood by refusing to go check a room that did not exist. She insisted he check the ceiling tiles or the basement for a hidden stash. She refused to leave and sat on the floor waiting for the inventory to magically appear out of thin air. Honestly, after hearing all 56 of those, I think we might just need to cancel December entirely for the sake of humanity. If you managed to survive this entire list without screaming at your screen, then you are an absolute legend, so please smash that like button and subscribe immediately before a Karen demands to speak to your manager. I seriously need to know what is the absolute dumbest complaint you have ever heard in real life. So drop your story in the comments section right now, because I read every single one. If you want to lose even more brain cells watching people completely lose their minds, then you need to click this video on the screen right now, because the audacity only gets worse from here, and trust me, you do not want to miss it.